Hello there, and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be going over a full year in LEGO Star Wars now that we've officially got the penultimate magazine here in the UK. It comes out today, November the 15th. We can now see what the next build is for December, meaning I can build all 12 of the magazine builds that we've got throughout the year, some of which have been figures, some of which have been builds, and the figures have been pretty cool. This Kenobi, for instance, came out exclusive to the £30 Kenobi Starfighter, the Delta 7, which also come with a Kaminoan. Really cool set, and if you haven't picked it up, there are some good sales. You can get it for about 20 quid. I saw it in Sainsbury's recently for £9. The person there said they hadn't had any stock since a few months ago, so even when it was £20 it was sold out, but they're clearing them out. So if you can find one, especially if you're in the UK, head to Sainsbury's. Very good value, but of course we'll get to this later as the focus is on the magazine builds. I've got all 12 laid out in front of me, which you'll see in a second, but yesterday you might have seen a slight change to the backgrounds. Now, I did go back to Homebase and bought a fifth unit. I'd already had four, but I recently picked up a fifth one, which is that top one up there, which now houses all of my Technic instead of them being in a tub, which really was way too small. I've got a whole unit dedicated to Technic, and my bricks are spread throughout Technic and minifigures, I guess. But if you want to see that, let me know in the comments. I'll do a video on that, perhaps in a week or two, just to go over how I store it. And I've already roughly gone over the figures, but now that I've finally sorted the final pick a brick cup purchase, which was from I don't want to know how long, because I'm terrible at putting these things away. But the cup is finally empty, so I need to refill it in a few weeks. But I've managed to sort all the bricks, and I've had to rearrange a few from the last video. So just let me know in the comments if you want to see it. Drop a like, and if we get 5 likes, I'll do a video. But today, of course, we're looking at the magazine builds. I keep calling them Advent, but I'm just excited to open the new Star Wars one. So let's get into the video. Now, what you can see laid out in front of you is all 12 of the minifigure and builds that we've got in the Star Wars magazine. And these are all from the UK edition. So I know sometimes in Europe you can get cards, Harry Potter and Star Wars cards with it. I was actually in Spain for this build. So not only did I not manage to pick up the magazine and had to build it myself, but also I should have picked up the magazine because I could have got to see one of the Star Wars cards, but I just didn't really find it until I was coming home, and by then I sort of just didn't want it because I know I had most of the pieces at home and ended up building it myself anyway. But I do slightly regret not picking it up. But you can see over the course of this year 2023 in LEGO Star Wars magazines, we got a total of six, maybe 7 minifigures, but 6 of the issues were minifigures and 6 of the issues were build. I think this is lovely to have every other month a minifigure and a build. However, what I don't think was done well is the fact that minifigures are grouped up sometimes in twos, and really good minifigures at that. We get a minifigure that was exclusive to £150 set, or perhaps it's the same 3PO that came in the trash compactor, so about 90 odd quid. I think it was £90 for Bo's Starfighter, and then we get a clone and a Stormtrooper, a Scout Trooper, which really people are probably buying more battle packs of. The only one I bought multiple magazines of is this Stormtrooper, as I compared it to the Stormtrooper mech, and value for money, which was the better. And of course, check out that video. I'm not going to spoil it, but we'll start off with January's issue, which came with this Bo-Katan minifigure, and you can see it's a great minifigure. It's perhaps not as great as the new Mandalorian era one we got, but for the Clone Wars, it's pretty nice and detailed. You can buy custom arms that go lovely with it. I in fact bought Bo-Katan's custom arms off Firestar, but instead used them for my custom Cosca Reeves, as I thought this Bo-Katan was good enough. And if you already had Bo-Katan from the Gauntlet, you could in fact use the torso and legs for a custom Jango suit, which you could even put the torso with the arms and legs from the AT-AT pilot, and I think that would look really cool as a custom Jango. Of course, you just need to get that helmet, but if you're a fan of Clone Wars and collect the Stormtroopers, you won't have any sort of shortage on Jango's face. This magazine cost £4.50. It was a great choice. I put this about 7th on my list, as I am going to rank all 12 of them by the end. So I guess I'll start a rank going here, and 7 isn't too bad, so we'll whack it in the middle for now. But I'll get to that later, and perhaps it's better at the bottom of the screen so you can see it. Now, February bought in the 2/12 minifigure, and this was a £4.50 issue once again. It came with the ATTE, which cost 120. I picked it up in Smith's after a while for about 90 quid, and it weren't too far off its release, so I'm definitely hoping to do the same with the Coruscant guard ship, as that's about 25% off. But this minifigure is a great minifigure. Of course, it comes with the clone head, and the reason why this is better than Bo-Katan is Bo-Katan doesn't come with her hairpiece in the magazine, which is a bit of a letdown to people that haven't got her already from the set and actually want the minifigure, as you got no choice but to display her with the helmet on, so there's not really a point to the face underneath. It's just because it's the head they already have, whereas this clone, of course, doesn't really need a hairpiece. Django himself didn't have much hair, so it makes sense that they didn't include a hairpiece for the clone, though I would like to see a few more different expressions, and the only clone so far that's really been given that special expression is Commander Cody, or the Commander Rex we got in the UCS Venator, but I think this is my second favourite overall, so this is going to go right at the top of the list here, and once again, I'll get to that at the end. Now, for March, we did end up getting to, sometimes the magazine includes a bonus build, and it's just a poly bag that they have a lot of and need to get rid of. So for the sake of this video, I'm not going to be including this because different retailers include different bonus builds and different bonus builds with each of the magazines. So I'm going to put this Razor Crest aside and focus purely on this X-Wing build. We actually did get an X-Wing build for 40 Years of Return of the Jedi, and it's a much better scaled version. You can see the engines at the back and the wings are exactly the same for both models, but the X-Wing's just way too short. It's 2 3 studs too short, and it's pretty much the same thickness. It's perhaps 1 stud shorter, and even then the engines match that, so it's a bit squashed and short for a model. So really they should have decreased the wings, perhaps have some 2x3 wedge plates on the back here, and give it some shorter engine pieces just with the studs on the back or something like that. But it's not a terribly bad one. It's just not as good as the one that came out in January, which was 2 months before it. So chances are they were probably working on designing these roughly the same time. So for that reason, it's one of the worst models we've got this year. And we're on to Kenobi. Once again, you saw him at the start of the video. However, it was a really cool minifigure to get. He was in a cheap set anyway. It was a £30 set, which I hate to say that is a cheap set for Star Wars this year. Considering all the other sets we got, it's definitely towards the Battle Pack price, which even they were about £20. Come with a few more figures, but this Kenobi is great. It does come with the dual-sided head, which has his comm unit for when he's flying his ship. You can see it's the exact same Kenobi that came in his Delta 7 Starfighter, which I've made customs of. The videos are up, but it didn't come with a hairpiece. Again, no hairpiece. It's the same as Bo-Katan, and that is why he goes right next to her. But for May, the Y-Wing, it's a great choice of build. We don't see enough Y-Wings. I hope to get a Y-Wing Lego set next year. Maybe not an original trilogy one, because we get a load of original trilogy ones, but a Clone Wars one would be awesome because it's got that extra bit of length where it hasn't been modified for the Rebel Alliance. And this build is really cool. I mean, the fact that they've managed to create this with this many pieces, this scale, is really cool. It's still pretty much size accurate to how it should scale up. Perhaps the engines could be like half a stud wider, but of course, roughly it scales up, so it's a lot better than the X-Wing, and for that reason, it's one of my preferred builds from the magazines this year. Now, we'll try and fly by the other ones, as I've taken a lot of time speaking about these. And like with the Scout Trooper, similar to the clone, this year it came out in, I think there might have been a 4+ set from last year, and it only really come out in the Endor Speeder set. So if you couldn't pick up that set for £90, or the Razor Crest for a lot more than £90, it's a great way of picking up this figure for only £4.99. Again, the first two were £4.50, then we had the X-Wing for £6, Kenobi dropped back to £4.75, and the Y-Wing and Scout were £5, and it pretty much stays this way for the rest of the year. So I think they've found the right price tag. Perhaps many people weren't buying the X-Wing, and of course it was an extra £1, but it did come with a bonus build, not this ATTE, but the Razor Crest. I don't know why I was pointing to the ATTE. But all the magazines from here on out are £5. Great value for a figure. Again, if you double it, you can get some of these figures in a mech, but considering the Scout didn't come at any other sets this year that were affordable for most LEGO fans like you and me, it's great that they included it in a magazine. And likewise, the ATTE, we had the £120 set, but to go with the 212 Trooper, to get a miniature build for it, it was really cool, really fun. It does come with a few rarer pieces as well, like this front slope piece, which I think only really came in a few sets, so you can check that out on Bricklink. But it's probably not the best, but it's probably my second favourite actual build, so that goes hand in hand with the 212. They're not my favourites, but they're honourable mentions. So this definitely comes towards the high end of the magazines. And now we're on to the last 5 of the month, and in fact these two should be swapped, as the Trooper did come in the mech, and because of that, this is in fact the worst minifigure we've got this year. It cost £5, and for double that you could get the mech, and it's really worth picking up the mech instead of this Trooper. So if you haven't and wanted to pick up any Troopers off Bricklink or any other sites, they do go for mostly £4 or £5, so you'd be better off picking up the mech whilst you can. And from the worst figure to the best figure, C-3PO and the Gonk. Now, the Gonk is pretty cool. It's not the best Gonk we've seen, but it definitely makes use of a range of nice pieces, and I really do like it. But this C-3PO is amazing. I in fact picked up 2 of these because the C-3PO we got as a promo for, I think, the Force Awakens LEGO game, came with legs with side printing. So I've in fact taken the legs from that, merged it with the torso, and made the ultimate prequel C-3PO, which the video is up on my channel if you're interested in it, alongside the review of this magazine. But this C-3PO minifigure is really great. You can see the arm detailing on the side is one of the best arm detailing we've ever seen in LEGO. It spans more or less the whole side of the arm and really makes use of the edges of the arm, which a load of custom arms just sort of print in the middle and are afraid to go towards the edges. But of course, LEGO are not. The printers they've got for this detail must be really accurate, as again, it even tops what they did for the Force Awakens minifigure. So for that reason, this is my favourite minifigure, and in fact, for the value, £4 or £5, this minifigure only from this year, it comes in a £150 set. So this is my favourite minifigure of the year. And moving on to last month's build, Vader's TIE Advance. Nice build. It's great that we've got something to combat the X-Wing. That's not something you see a lot of in the magazines, but it's just a shame that we didn't get a scaled X-Wing to go with it. Of course, I think Vader's TIE Advance would actually be a bit smaller than this if it was paired with the X-Wing, but it makes use of these rounded bricks, which have only been seen, as far as Star Wars is concerned, in the 332nd Battle Pack and Yoda's Starfighter. So it's a great build, and to go along with the bomber this year, I'm happy we didn't get another bomber, as we actually got a bomber that is a similar size in a magazine from a few years ago. So they go very nicely together. Vader's Advance is a bit bigger, but it's nice to see bigger models in recent sets. So this actually is one of, again, my favourite builds. So I'll slot it between here. And today, in this month's Star Wars magazine, we're getting, you guessed it, Yoda's Starfighter. You probably didn't guess it. This looks nothing like Yoda's Starfighter. It definitely looks like a TIE Reaper more than a Starfighter. I don't know what's gone wrong with this model, and perhaps I haven't built it right. Perhaps there's something that's missing from the issue we got last month, but it just doesn't look like Yoda's Starfighter. Of course, Yoda's Starfighter has the 2 wings, so we'd need some wings on the back, and they're just not giving it for this set. So it'd be interesting to see if the model's any different, but this is the image that we got, and this is all the pieces that we use. So it's a disappointment, and because of that, this is in fact my worst build of this year. So that is even worse than the Stormtrooper. But coming in for December, you'll see at the end of today's magazine, for my best build of the year. And it's just so similar to the set. It's the Republic fighter tank. Okay, it's not better than the 3PO and 212 minifigure we got, but it comes in third overall, and it just looks awesome. You can see the turrets are actually movable. They are separate, but they make use of this 2x2 with the snot stud, the single snot stud on the side, which is popping up in more and more sets. And you've got a few other snot bricks on the bottom here. You've got the shape of it replicated great, and even the middle bit here, which of course come with all the unnecessary stickers in the actual set. This is my favourite build out of all of them. The builds this year have definitely been better overall than the minifigures. It's just a shame that we got some like the X-Wing and Yoda Starfighter that look nothing alike. And of course, the Trooper, which we got for better value in the mech. But this is how I'd rank the magazine. So my favourite was 3PO, then we got the 212, then the Republic fighter tank, then the AT-TE, Vader's Advance, Y-Wing, Bo, Kenobi, Scout, the short and stubby X-Wing, the Stormtrooper, and of course Yoda Starfighter, which is definitely more of a TIE Reaper. So perhaps that's something that went over in design, and perhaps we'll get a TIE Reaper that looks like Yoda Starfighter early next year. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Do drop a like if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what your favourite and perhaps your least favourite of this year's magazines has been. Of course, we are approaching 500 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it if you do hit subscribe. And as always, may the bricks be with you.